Well, we're talking a little bit here today about different phases of NASM's optimum performance training model. We can spend a few minutes and talk about phase 3, which is the hypertrophy phase of the model. So the primary adaptation we're trying to achieve is hypertrophy or enlargement of skeletal muscle fiber. The way that we can do this is to increase our time under tension. We're going to increase our total volume by adjusting the sets and reps to have our musculature and the entire kinetic chain do more work and handle more load to force us to adapt. This is more of a traditional weightlifting style of phase. The repetition guidelines are between 6 to 12 repetitions and relatively stable exercises. The tempo might range from medium, so a 2-0-2 up to slow, or a 3-2-1. So we're still controlling the movements. We're focusing on different components of a repetition. We're going to be resting approximately 60 seconds in between sets, 30 to 60 seconds, depending on the type of program that you have someone on, their rest for that day, other muscles that you're training, the type of program that you're following for the day. You're going to follow this program where you could do this 3 times a week in a total body program, or you can get more advanced and do a 2-on, 1-off, 2-on, 2-off split, or a 3-on, 1-off split, or eventually someone who's advanced who has at least a base of 1 year training could even work up to training each major muscle group once per week. A lot of the research out there shows that stimulating a muscle at least once every 72 hours with some sort of resistance is going to be helpful in maintaining muscle mass as well as improving strength. But there are definitely some advanced users out there that are having success by training the body, each body part once per week with a tremendous amount of volume. It just takes a long time to get there. So for hypertrophy training, enlargement of skeletal muscle fiber, this is going to help with some bone density. We are going to have some nice challenge to the ligamentous system and the musculotendinous junction as well. This is more of an optional phase. Not as many average gym goers are going to come in wanting to get necessarily bigger, more muscular. Even though if you're doing resistance training, you're probably going to have some adaptation of hypertrophy along the way as well. But here we're focusing on it, trying to keep time under tension on a focused area of muscles. We're paying attention to the hormone balance within the body. We don't want to train for 2 or 3 hours here. Usually an hour of resistance training is going to be plenty. Our cortisol levels will rise, our testosterone levels will fall. That will throw us off. That will put us into more of an anabolic state versus a catabolic state. So be cautious with this. This isn't the type of workout that we have someone come in and just throw weights around for 3 hours. We're going to be very focused in what it is that we're doing. We're following different guidelines for the strength level of the OPT model, for flexibility, for core, balance, reactive training. If you choose to use speed, agility, and quickness here, you can. Where you might use speed, agility, and quickness here is off-season with a mass-dominant athlete like a football player where they're following a hypertrophy weight training program a couple days per week and they're doing plyometrics or speed, agility, and quickness on off days a couple days throughout the week. It's really endless in the programming variations that you want to apply. We're using typically stable exercises, machine, barbell, dumbbell, and I know the stability is a continuum, but we're trying to allow clients to focus on muscle groups at one time. So if we're doing pushing, it's not just the pecs, but chest, shoulders, triceps. We're focusing on the pushing muscles or the pulling. I know all muscles pull. I know, I got that. I agree with you. But if we're doing the pulling muscles, such as the back, the posterior rotator cuff, the posterior deltoid, and the biceps, we do want to pay attention to symmetry here. It seems that most people do way too many vertical pulls, like a lat pull down, and not enough horizontal pulls, like a seated row. So we do want to make sure that we're balanced out in what we're doing. Of course, many average gym goers are doing too much with the anterior portion of their body, the pectoralis major and minor, as well as the anterior deltoid are overdeveloped, and on the other side, underdeveloped are the scapular stabilizers and retractors. So we just want to keep an eye on any balance that we put together. Even if we're not getting someone ready for a bodybuilding program per se, we do want to try to achieve muscular balance in the true sense of the word. So minimizing muscular imbalances, making sure we're going through the flexibility continuum, core exercises, balance exercises, reactive training exercises, and then here in this conversation we're just focusing on the resistance training aspect of phase number 3, more hypertrophy, more good old-fashioned weight training. Some people are concerned about gaining muscle. I've had typically female clients sometimes say they're worried about getting too big, and I haven't had someone get too big by accident unless they've been putting too much in their mouth. So if they moderate their food intake and then you bring the volume of the program down, you should be fine. But this is an optional phase, so if someone doesn't want to develop hypertrophy, then this isn't the phase to spend too much time in for them. But if bone density and ligamentous health is something that you're looking at, then putting this extra load on there, we're starting to challenge the body with 6 reps. We're putting a little load on the tissue here. Then this could be a good way to do it for a small amount of time. These are the protocols, that 3 sets of 10 that have been around for 20 or 30 years. When someone starts weight training, they tend to default to the 3 sets of 10. Not a bad thing to do, but they tend to align themselves with that time under tension towards hypertrophy, and most people don't necessarily want that. So be judicious about your application of this phase, but it comes down to how much they're eating. Are they doing cardio along there as well? Because if you're wasting calories through cardio and you're adjusting your food intake, you're not just going to blow up and get huge. It's just not going to happen. So for the average client who you want some of the nice benefits here for, but don't want to get too big, you can make sure you keep an eye on their food program, make sure you keep their cardio up. On the flip side of it, another error that I see is when people are trying to gain muscle mass is they're spending too much time on cardio, or they're riding the bike for 2 or 3 miles to get to the gym. You're not really trying to focus on the type 1 muscle fibers here and build up endurance. We're trying to take the larger type 2A muscle fibers and get them as big as possible and start to recruit some of those type 2X muscle fibers with that heavier load. That's why we're getting down towards that 6 reps, focusing on that overload principle. So we're building towards that max strength, lifting a little bit of a heavier weight, but stimulate the muscle with the heavier weight and then increase the time under tension so the body will make those physiological adaptations and start to go ahead and achieve some hypertrophy. Phase 3 of the NASM OPT model, focusing on hypertrophy. NASM's text on this, the essentials of personal fitness training. It's a good way to study up on this. This is just kind of a brief 7 or 8 minute summary of it. But I hope that's helpful, and I hope that helps a little bit with your application. I'm Eric Beard. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.